The camera slowly moves through an ordinary city. People walking quickly, looking at screens, repeating routes with the precision of migratory birds, but without knowing exactly where they are going. The soundtrack is deep, scientific, slightly menacing. The narrator enters with a voice that is too serious for the subject. Here, in the modern urban habitat, we find one of the most intriguing species on the planet. It believes it makes rational decisions. It believes it controls its own life. But recent studies indicate that 90% of its daily behavior is predictable, extremely predictable. Dramatic pause. Its name, Homo Automaticus. Homo Automaticus wakes up every day at roughly the same time. He complains about the alarm clock as if it were an ancestral ritual. He hits snooze believing he has won a battle, when in reality he has only postponed defeat for 9 minutes. He gets up, grabs his cell phone, consumes news that doesn't change his life, answers messages he didn't want to answer, and goes through the day with a strange feeling of tiredness even before it begins. Observe closely. He calls it routine, security, normality, but researchers warn this behavior is typical of a creature that has outsourced its own brain. Homo Automaticus doesn't decide. It reacts. It doesn't choose. It responds to stimuli. Noise, notification, demands, anxiety, fear of disapproval. Everything becomes a command. What's most fascinating is that he deeply believes he is free. "I do what I want," he says while repeating exactly what he did yesterday. A curious phenomenon, almost comical, almost tragic. The camera zooms in on the face of an ordinary individual on public transport. Empty eyes, neutral expression. The narrator whispers, "Here we see an example in an advanced state of automation. He goes to a job he dislikes, to support a lifestyle he didn't choose, to impress people he didn't even realize he didn't admire. All this without realizing that he could, at least, question it." At some point in life, almost every Homo Automaticus feels an existential itch, a strange discomfort, an inconvenient question that arises out of nowhere, usually at night. Was that all it was supposed to be? But before the question develops, he does what he does best. He stifles it. He turns on the TV, he opens another tab, he scrolls through his feed. Distraction kicks in like a highly trained defense mechanism. Experts call this emotional anesthesia. It hurts less not to think. It hurts less not to feel. It hurts less not to choose. At least in the short term, the music changes. It becomes more tense. But not everyone remains in this state forever, says the narrator. In rare cases, Homo Automaticus suffers an unexpected event. It could be a great frustration, a failure, deep exhaustion, or simply a day when the autopilot malfunctions. And when that happens, something dangerous emerges: conscience. Conscience doesn't ask permission, it doesn't warn. It appears with questions that have no shut-off button. Why do I live like this? Why do I repeat this pattern? Why do I keep choosing what keeps me trapped? At that moment, the brain goes on high alert. Internal sirens go off, because questioning patterns threatens the entire system. Observe the defensive behavior. Homo Automaticus begins to justify. It's not quite like that. Everyone lives like this. Now is not the time, when I have more time. Classic phrases, documented for generations. Extremely efficient at keeping everything exactly as it is. The camera shows imaginary graphs. According to studies, the narrator says with excessive seriousness, Homo Automaticus spends more time planning changes than actually changing. He watches motivational videos, saves inspirational quotes, buys books that promise transformation in 7 steps, and feels momentary relief, an effect known as false evolution. The feeling of progress without any progress at all. It's like watching documentaries about physical exercise hoping to lose weight. Informative, comfortable, totally useless without action. Here's a cruel detail. Information doesn't liberate. Awareness does. And awareness hurts. Because when you start observing your own patterns, you realize something uncomfortable. Nobody is holding you back. Nobody is stopping you. Nobody is conspiring against you. The jailer has always been inside the cell, and he has your voice. The narrator pauses. This is the most dangerous moment in the documentary, because now the individual has two options: go back to autopilot or go through the discomfort. The journey is not glamorous. It has no epic path. It has no applause. It begins with something extremely simple and terrifying. Observe before reacting, feel before fleeing, think before responding. And this, for Homo Automaticus, is almost unbearable. Consider the classic example. Something goes wrong. The impulse arises to complain, to blame, to get distracted. But the conscious individual does something strange. She pauses. He observes the impulse. He doesn't obey immediately. And in that small space between stimulus and response, freedom is born. Researchers are still trying to explain this phenomenon. When the individual realizes that it is not their thoughts, but someone observing their thoughts, a pattern break occurs, says a fictional expert with a serious expression, and the automatic system temporarily collapses. Of course, the system tries to recover. It creates resistance, laziness, procrastination, self-sabotage. You don't need to change everything now. That's an exaggeration. Relax. All to bring the individual back to familiar comfort. Because the automatic can be limiting, but it's predictable. And predictability gives a false sense of security. The suspense grows, because now there's an internal battle. On one side, the old identity, the one that lives in reactive mode, the one that seeks quick pleasure, external approval, and immediate relief. On the other, a new identity beginning to form, less impulsive, more conscious, extremely uncomfortable at first. This is where many give up, not because they can't do it, but because they feel too much. Change hurts emotionally. It requires saying no to old impulses. It requires enduring the silence. It requires stopping deceiving oneself, and that doesn't earn likes in real life. But the few who remain are beginning to notice curious changes. The external world hasn't changed that much, but the way we react has changed completely. The less drama, less false urgency, less comparison, more clarity, more intention, more internal control. The narrator adjusts the tone. True control isn't about dominating the world. It's about not being dominated by any stimulus that comes along. A simple concept, extremely rare. We've reached the climax, the moment when an individual understands something that changes everything. Freedom isn't about doing whatever you want. Any impulse can do that. Freedom is about choosing even when you don't feel like it. It's about acting in alignment with who you've decided to be, not with what you feel in 5 seconds. At this point, Homo Automaticus ceases to exist. Not because he became perfect, but because he stopped living in the default mode. He begins to choose small, conscious behaviors. Repeated, sustained, without drama, without spectacle. And this, over time, builds a completely different life. The camera pulls back. The narrator concludes, most people don't live on autopilot because they want to. They live on autopilot because they never stop to observe. And the final question echoes, heavy with emotion. In what area of your life are you functioning like a poorly programmed machine? Where do you react every day and call that your personality? Write it in the comments. Making it visible is the first step to change. If this documentary disguised as a reflection made you laugh inside and think outside, leave a like. Subscribe to the channel and share it with someone who still believes they're in control, while hitting the snooze button for the 3rd time. Because truly waking up doesn't happen when the alarm clock rings. It happens when the autopilot breaks.